Revive, this was all due respect. And now, your host, CJ Walters.
Alright. Hey everybody, thanks for coming out tonight. You know, just following us on Periscope. It's going to be a great night. I know I say that all the time, but it's going to be a great night.
It's always a great night.
Yeah.
Every day's a bonus.
Well, it's going to get a little crazy in here tonight, but we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Now, what have you been doing? I haven't seen you.
I know. I've been at work and at home. And today is my 9-year wedding anniversary.
Today is?
Today is my 9-year wedding.
Wow. That's awesome.
So I've been being a good husband, in my mind.
Right.
Good dad.
Well, I'll tell you what, I went to see you at the pole this morning at Drivers Elementary. Do they have any? That's what it is. But I tell you what, I went to the one. So I get girls up there, and it was pretty awesome, man. I mean, they sang some songs. They had this young Chris Farley looking dude playing a guitar and singing. I'm like, look at that. Is that Chris? No, it's not Chris Farley. But they played some songs. One of the songs they played was "Holy Spirit, You Are Welcome Here." I mean, I was like, wow.
Pretty awesome.
I mean, of course they did "How Great Is Our God" because everyone knows that. But it was pretty cool. I was like, this is awesome. But what I was thinking was, like, how awesome would this be to bring a full band to a See You at the Pole and just rock out? You can just one song.
Ooh. That's awesome.
It'd be unreal. So,
is there any more See You at the Pole? Is it Meet You at the Pole or See You at the Pole?
I think it's See You at the Pole. I don't know.
Is there any more days?
Just make one.
That's what I was thinking. Can I make my own?
Yeah. I don't see why not. It was
I'll look into it.
Look into that.
I will.
Hey, everybody knows my main man Shark, and you know, the guy in the back, the wizard pushing buttons and doing those things. Let's get into it. You know how we do. Top 5.
Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Alright, top 5 headlines. First one, bad timing. Experts skeptical of cool clock that led to Texas boy's arrest. Now they arrested this kid,
right?
And I'm thinking he was like 14 years old, for bringing a box that had a clock. It looked like a bomb. He brought it to school. They arrested him. They come to find out that it was not a bomb. It was a clock put in a box, right? And I'm thinking, he said he wanted to bring it to impress his teacher, and I'm like, dude, that's just bad play.
Bad idea.
Bad idea. Second of all, so he gets out, and then they find out it's not a bomb, and so now you got all these celebrities, President Obama, all those, talking about this kid, you know, he's a genius, and he's this and that, and all this stuff, right? He can make a homemade clock. It's like unreal.
Like giving him praise.
Yeah, like all total props. Well, now they're looking into it, and it's finding out that the clock was actually a clock that he took out of another clock and put in a box.
So
it's not so genius. So now you got our, you know, the president, the guy running our country, like, man, it's Radio Shack. It's terrible. Moving on. Number 2, I like this one. Truths behind the 5-second rule. All right, they did studies.
I like the 5-second rule because I like it.
Well, they did the studies. All right, here's what they found out. 5-second rule food. Faster is better. So 2-second food is better than 5-second food.
Obviously.
Okay? Moist foods will pick up more bacteria more readily. That's, you know, like a piece of soggy toast is going to pick up more than a hard shell.
And then
exactly. Food dropped on carpets are less likely to pick up more germs.
Really? I would think that would be the exact opposite.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But here's the deal. It's that fuzz and that little carpet stuff. It's not really bacteria. It's just nasty.
Yeah. So if I drop like a chicken wing, it'd be better for me to drop it on the carpet more than the hardwood.
Yes.
Okay.
Women are more likely than men to eat food dropped on the floor.
Women are more
likely. That's what they found out. Oh, I'm cool with that. Women. That's what it said. The facts are the facts. Moving on. Pope Francis is visiting the U.S. this week for the first time.
What's he visiting?
He's just visiting, doing like a 6-day tour, visiting 3 big cities.
I think it's pretty awesome.
He met with President Obama today.
Is he going to be in a bulletproof box?
They did some things, but he doesn't roll like that.
Not this Pope.
No. I like this Pope, and here's the deal: is that you should really appreciate the Pope. You should, yeah, I tell you, he's outside the box, Pope. Well, here's what I think. You should really like this Pope. He's all about people, all about.
I've talked to some people in the Catholic faith, and they seem to really admire this guy because of some of the things that he's doing that I guess you wouldn't necessarily think that Pope would. Right. Is how they would do it.
Yeah, he's definitely broke down some walls, and I think one of my biggest things. I hope he just. I don't know what his speech was this morning in front of 15,000 people, but I hope because his stance on abortion, his stance on same-sex marriage, all that stuff, is like total opposite of Barack Obama. So I'm hoping that he, when they're tore some up a little bit. Moving on. This is my favorite one of the night. Animal rights lawyers sued to give a monkey the copyright of a disputed selfie photo. I think it's awesome. So this photographer is out in the jungle or wherever you find monkeys, and he's setting up cameras, and he's got this camera with a selfie stick and all this stuff, and he puts it like right in front of this monkey, trying to get the monkey to take a picture, right? So finally the monkey does take a picture, and you can see the photo, it's hilarious. It like looks like it's got fake teeth, it's smiling so big. So he's like using this picture in books and all this stuff, and so PETA is suing him for trying to get all the proceeds for this photo to go to the monkey. And I'm like,
you tell me that, and I think PETA should be suing whoever created Curious George because he's a monkey, and Curious George has made way more money.
Right. Well, my thing is,
so let's do that.
Here's what I'd say if I'm a photographer. Hey, you want the proceeds of the monkey all go to the monkey? That's fine. Have him come up and set up his account.
Great idea.
Oh, he can't, but I'm going to keep the money. Don't be a moron. Moving on.
Find something better to do with your time.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers versus Russell Wilson in the God speech. So, last year, Seattle beat Green Bay, and afterwards Russell Wilson said he'd like to thank God, blah, 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 blah. This year, Green Bay just beat Seattle. Afterwards, Aaron Rodgers, who's the quarterback of Green Bay, says, I'd like to thank God, and it looks like that God was a Packers fan today. And people were like all going crazy about it.
I personally think it's hilarious. I'm a sports guy, so I kind of like the smack talk going back and forth. And I'm pretty sure that those two quarterbacks are probably going to see each other again this year.
Yeah.
Before it's all said and done, I like the smack talk.
People are, I don't know.
That's carried over almost a whole year.
Right.
And he remembered that.
He remembered him talking about God. Yeah. So evidently it was like to seed. I don't know. I mean, they're talking that Aaron Rodgers. First of all, there's no way that God is a Green Bay Packers fan.
No way.
It's impossible. So he's
Aaron Rodgers is a much better quarterback.
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry, Seahawks fans.
Sorry, but that's just the truth.
That's the way it is.
What it is. Thank you. Moving on. You got a new segment tonight, Wizard, called Bet You Didn't Know.
You didn't know.
Bet You Didn't Know. Switching it up. I like it.
Yeah, we got some facts here, okay? Some unknown facts. If you do know, well, then you're a wizard, okay?
I'm a wizard.
Then you're a wizard, and you are not the wizard. So we're gonna start off. Fact 1. When you get a kidney transplant, they usually leave your original kidneys in your body and put the third kidney in your pelvis.
Really? I knew that. I didn't know that.
You did not know that.
I didn't know that.
That's disgusting.
That's insane.
That makes no sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
So,
3 kidneys.
Fact 2. The continent with the highest average education level is Antarctica.
No way.
Was that like ratio?
Because there's like 10 people that live there.
And they're all researchers, okay? They're all looking penguins.
They're all scientists.
Yeah, everybody's a scientist there, okay? It's not that hard to be.
It's like saying Williamstown Independence got better attendance than Grant County High School. It just doesn't make any sense. They got 30 kids in the whole school.
Like 28 of them were there.
Hey, a W is a W.
Terrible.
Alright, fact 3. In Australia, you will receive a $200 fine if you touch an electrified wire that causes instant death.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. And you're fine.
Now,
what is this
the collections, I'm not sure how that works. Okay, if I touch a wire and I die, good luck getting that $200.
Could you imagine being that guy, like, your job is to go collect this money.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry for your loss, man, but he owes us $200.
And you
Right, do I get it from you, or is how
How's that work? You want to get a check, take it with cash? Where are these wires
You
at?
take
What
credit?
is Australia a big substation, or what is this? What is it?
Like, what are wires doing close enough to someone can touch that could kill you instantly? These like kangaroo wires?
Moving on.
No trouble.
Fact 4.
That wasn't funny.
We went to the moon before we thought to put wheels on a suitcase.
Is that true?
This is, I bet you didn't know, and you didn't know that fact.
I didn't know that.
I mean, how simple, that's the thing, right?
Do you have a suitcase with wheels?
I do.
I do too.
Well, it's not really a suitcase, it's like a bag.
Yeah, it's like a bag, like a satchel.
It's a cheap thing. I can't afford the nice ones.
Alright, and the last fact here. The electric chair was invented by a dentist.
Why?
I don't know, but every time that your kid says, Daddy, I don't want to go to the dentist. I'm scared of the dentist. Believe them.
That makes sense.
Okay? It makes sense.
I'm not gonna sit in the dentist chair. You're like, sit down. No, I'm gonna sit. You sit there. I'm gonna sit.
Alright, what are you thinking about while I'm sitting in this chair, guy?
I like to share that with every time I go to the dentist. I have to share it with everyone else.
Hey, once you put a note down there, find out why, so we can talk about that next week.
Alright.
I'd like to know that.
Thanks, Wizard.
It's great stuff.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Refreshing.
Yeah.
We're all now smarter.
I wonder if they figured out how to put wheels on coolers before we went to the moon. No.
Why would they put wheels on coolers before suitcases?
It's life changing.
Yeah, but these coolers are way heavy.
They make coolers now for motor remote control. Set on down around.
All right, tonight we're gonna intro the meat and get into this thing.
I'm scared.
It's going to be a little scary. You shouldn't be scared. Tonight we're talking about life and what we do with it, basically, starting off. So, I had some stuff wrote down here is that, you know, if you think about life in general, and how big of a gift it is, like, do we treat life like a gift, or do we appreciate it, or do we desecrate it? What do you think?
I think I don't think we do either on a regular basis, honestly.
That's great.
I think we just kind of flow.
You're right. I think for the most part we stay so blasted busy
Yep.
that we don't really have time to think about anything. And then it takes moments. It takes a step back and really thinking, oh, wait a minute. You know, just like I was thinking about, like, there was 3 baptisms here at Revive in the last 2 weeks. And I thought, man, yeah, it was awesome. But I was thinking about that, and I'm thinking, do we truly, like, appreciate that moment for those people? Like, do you really think about, like, how awesome that is, how life-changing that is, how, you know what I'm saying? Or do we just kind of, oh, it's great, we did it, and go on and never think about it again?
Yeah, I'm not trying to steal you. This is really scary. Like, what you just brought up, that is the exact thing that I was thinking about just the other day when I was watching that video that made me think the same exact thing. That's scary.
Oh, what a great minds think alike.
Are we like bros?
I don't know.
We're like a wolf pack?
You have a tattoo of me on your person?
No.
Oh, no, for brothers. Ask Kevin from last week.
That's what I asked you.
But
you're right. Like it's like, do we really? You're exactly right. Exactly what you said.
what I wrote down was, do we take time to think about how awesome that is? I mean, do we? We don't.
We don't.
That's how terrible it is.
Absolutely not.
So, transitioning from that, getting into what we're talking about tonight is, what if we never had the choice? What if we never had the choice to make, you know, what if the choice had already been made for you before, you know what I'm saying, before you were able to live?
Scary thought.
Oh yeah, it changes everything. Think about it, someone made the choice for you. whether you were going to live or not. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I guess it's...
Then my kids wouldn't exist.
Your kids wouldn't exist. I mean, the domino effect. There's a lot of things that's happened. You know, God created you for a reason. All of us in here for a reason. And if you take yourself out of the equation, then there's plans and things that can't happen.
My wife might be married to somebody else.
Oh, she would probably be somebody big.
That call that
6'5".
Turns me into a rage.
Yeah, some handsome man. But so we're talking about that's great. I hope she's watching. We're talking about abortion tonight, and I know this subject has gotten ugly. It's gotten you know, it's no one really wants to talk about it. It's one of those things that everyone knows what's going on, but don't really want to talk about it because they're scared to hurt somebody's feelings, or they're scared to say the wrong thing, or they're scared. But you know what? It's with all due respect, we named it that so that we could say, hey, you know what? We said that, but we told you with all due respect.
Yeah, with all due respect.
That means we can say whatever we want.
Yeah, fair warning.
So, absolutely. So,
I think we get into situations like this when we get to hot topics like this where some Christians are literally almost scared to give their opinion and then to give evidence and back it up as to why, because the first thing that somebody's going to say is, well, you're being judgmental.
Right.
No, I'm not. I'm just telling you what God says about this matter.
And I think if we're not going to take a stand on big topics, certain topics, what are you going to take a stand on?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't really want to discuss abortion, but, you know, I think you should use Welch's grape juice at communion. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like, why even have a thought?
We need to talk about that. Can we do like cheese nips or something?
Ooh,
Cheez-Its and Kool-Aid? No.
All right. So, Witcher says no.
Okay.
So, getting into, first of all, just so everyone knows, we are not condemning anyone that has had an abortion tonight. We are not. Absolutely not. I believe that God's grace and mercy exists to forgive us for all sins. We've all fallen short of the glory of God. We're not casting any stones at anybody. And I mean, if God has not already forgiven you because you haven't asked, then He can and He will. So do not hold on to that guilt. I think that the guilt. I think there's a lot more women than we even realize that are holding on to guilt from past things that had happened, and there's no sense in it. Just let it go. You don't need a pope to tell you that your sin has been forgiven. That's you just gotta let it go. But our whole point of discussion tonight is hoping to bring up some real truths to light on the subject of abortion. I mean, I think that we've gotten, as a church, we stay away from it because it's scary. It's the same way most churches are going to stay away from same-sex marriage. They don't want to hurt. They don't want to. You know what I'm saying? It's easier just to not talk about it. So when we start talking about the subject of abortion this week, and I have researched and stuff till my eyeballs hurt, and I know you guys have too. And it's when I started thinking, I wanted to find out what makes I wanted to make a list and see why women are having abortions. I want to see what the main reasons were. So in our research, we come up with some of the following: don't want to be responsible for a child, don't want the body figure, abortion is a form of contraceptive, teenagers and young women will not have a future with a child, no spouse or partner in the picture, and financially cannot provide for a child. Those are the main reasons why women today have abortions. And we'll get into more statistics going forward, but last year, the one Planned Parenthood did 327,000 abortions. And in the U.S., I think the number was like 1.6 million total. So to give you an idea of how many there's going on, these are your main reasons why. So with these reasons in mind, we went out looking for a special guest. I know you guys texted me all week about who's a special guest, who's a special guest, who's a special guest, and I had several in mind, and they couldn't make it, and they couldn't do this, and they couldn't do that, and finally Last night, by God's intervention, I get a hold of this lady who is someone I've known for a while. Just out of, I don't even know why I called her. You know, like I ran into her. I don't even know how it even happened. And I was just like, hey, you're a woman. You're a mom, and you know she's a professional woman. You know, her sons are older, but and I was like, will you answer some questions for me so I can at least have something to use in our service tomorrow? And she's like, yeah, I'll read them, or I'll go for it. And so I asked her. I sent out this. I said, well, I'll send you. Give me your email address, and I'll send you these questions that I want you to ask or to answer. And she's like, okay. So, just to give you an idea, the lady, and I won't say her last name, but her name is Jane. She's a mother of 2 boys, a professional woman with a degree. And I run into, it's just crazy. I've known her for a long time. I have no idea what her past was. I thought she would be a good person to ask because I knew the age of her oldest son. It was that she was young when she had him. So I went with, I wanted to find out, tell me about your first pregnancy. Were you scared? Were you excited? So on and so forth. But I always want to know the cupcake answers. Like, is it tough raising a kid when you're young? You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew I could answer that. But that's what I was going for. So she it's funny because she calls me. And she's like, listen, I just got your, like it's unreal to me that we're even having this conversation, she said. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, God has really been pressing on my heart to talk about this for a long time. And there's only a handful of people that even know this story. But her first pregnancy, she has 2 sons. Her first pregnancy, she terminated the pregnancy. I had no idea. She was 16 years old when it happened. I got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. And she's telling me this, and my mind just blown up. And I'm like, holy smokes! Well, that changes like all my questions. Like, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
And so only a handful of people know. So she's talking about she was 16 years old. Her boyfriend was like 18, 19 at the time, and she gets pregnant because she's staying with her boyfriend all the time. She's trying to stay away from her home life, which it was the reason she's trying to stay from home life was she had an individual that was sexually molesting her. And I'm just like, how in the world? You can't, So she's staying with her boyfriend all the time. She ends up they're sexually active. She ends up getting pregnant at 16 years old. Her parents, they talk about her mother was just, you're going to have an abortion, you're going to have an abortion, you're going to have an abortion, because she said there's no support. And her mother was just adamant that this is what you're going to do. I'm your mom, you're 16 years old, there's nothing you can do, you're having an abortion, period. And she said, if you look at it from a 16-year-old standpoint, which, think about that.
Yeah.
She had no support. She had no real say-so. Her mother said, and that's basically what she said. And then her mother says, and if you don't have the abortion, I'm going to have your boyfriend thrown in jail, press charges against him because he's over age. And that's statutory rape. So she's got the only person that she's even had in her life as a support figure is she's going to have him thrown in jail. So she says she ends up terminating the pregnancy at 16. So I'm talking about how, we talk about God's grace and mercy and what if you remember the feeling. She said at 16 years old, she said the feeling was, she said, to be honest with you, it was like relief that she had an abortion. The feeling was, because it was like, you're a 16-year-old kid, you've got a new chapter, a new fresh start. She said, but there's not a day that has gone by since then that I don't think about it. She said, God has forgiven me of it. I no longer hold on to the guilt. I don't hold on to the guilt, but the feelings do never go away.
Right.
And it was unreal. I'm sitting there having a conversation. So with somebody, only a handful of people know.
Right.
I mean, her kids don't even know. But
You just so happened to run into her and was like,
and this is the topic of the week.
that's insane.
And I said, listen,
That's a God thing, like, no doubt.
I'm like, listen, I'm not going to like tell people who you are and all this stuff, but this is no coincidence. Like, you're needing to share this with somebody because someone's going through that same thing that you've gone through. I mean, with 1 point, I think it was the statistics, and we'll get into it later. You'll see it. I mean, it's happened. It happens a lot, and it happens all the time, and it has happened. So there's women out there, there's young girls out there that are dealing with these situations that, you know what, they've been forced into this, or they've made a bad choice, or they've done this in their past, and they can't let it go, because you think about it, that's life. We're talking about the life of a child. And I think it even gets more, because she goes on, she gets married to her boyfriend, they have 2 kids, like I said, and you start looking at the kids and how blessed you are to have children.
Right.
And the gift of what God has given you, and then you start thinking about how they should have an older brother, an older sister, and it's just, you know what I'm saying, that never, how does that go away? It just doesn't. So I'm asking her, was it tough her first year? This was after the termination, and this is her second pregnancy. And she was 18, 19 years old. She worked low-paying jobs to help support her baby. It was tough, but they got through. She found support. There's programs out there, WIC, those types of things. She breastfed the baby. She basically was saying, it was tough. I had to stop buying myself stuff, but focus on the baby. But I made it happen. And she went on to talk about how the support for women who choose to go the abortion route, she said, the support around them is just non-existent most of the time. Families don't support them. They feel like there's nowhere else to go. And she's talking about just putting God first. If she'd had God in her life, and raised in church but didn't really have God in her life, we've all been there. I'm that person. So, and I'm like, this is last night, I'm like, my goodness, like I'm beat just thinking about it. And how awesome the interview was, and how, that was my basic thing, was telling her how important it is that she goes and shares that with somebody.
Yeah.
Because there's a group of people, there's women out there that need to hear that testimony. You know what I'm saying? That's a powerful, powerful thing. All right, so I'm going to throw an absolute ton of statistics at you right now.
I like statistics.
I do too, man. There is a ton of them. So, abortion stats. Unintended pregnancies account for almost half of all pregnancies. Right? 4 out of 10 unintended pregnancies end in abortion.
40%. 40% of the 50%.
Yes. Out of the total number of pregnancies, this is total pregnancies, not unintended, all pregnancies, 24% end in abortion. All pregnancies. For women choosing abortion, 52% of them are under 25 years old.
What's that again?
For women choosing abortion, like a woman who's having an abortion, 52% are under 25 years old.
I'm still caught up on the 24% of all pregnancies.
24% on all pregnancies. When you think about it, there's 1.6 million abortions in the United States. That's a lot of abortions. I mean, there's a lot of pregnancies. That's only 24%. And that gets us on into the...
Well, it goes back to how many, there's people walking around that we probably know that we have no idea.
Oh, absolutely. The lady that I ran into, I had no clue. I had no idea. I would have, and God knew that, because I would have never asked her.
Yeah. How are you going to ask that?
Yeah. Hey, you want to talk about your abortion?
Yeah.
But no, I'm not going to do that. I wouldn't have, probably been right for me to, get the right stuff, but I'm not a reporter by no means. So, I wanted to find that. Wizard, there was a stat about
the prior births. 39% had 0 prior live births when they got their abortion. 46% had 1 to 2 prior live births before their abortion. And 13.9% had 3 or more prior live births prior to their abortion.
Yeah, so get this. So get that statistic. 46% of the women having abortions had already had 1 or 2 children.
That blows my mind.
And so I asked my wife about this last night. I said, explain to me how that even works. And she said, you don't realize how many women struggle so bad. Even after they've had a child, they're trying to raise the child, and they're struggling with the child, with the whole situation, with the whole circumstance. Their minds just do not, you know what I'm saying? They don't have, it's like they don't have that motherly instinct thing that we're talking about, you know what I'm saying, that takes charge.
Right.
They just struggle with everyday life, and they get depressed, and they just go through things. I mean, and so she's telling me all this, and I'm like, of course I don't get it, right? We're men, we're dudes.
I get angry when you say that. But then I think, like, are there that many women that don't have the support that they need to go through something like that? And that's why I'm like, I can't even wrap my mind around that.
So, but I know people. I've known couples that thought it would be a great idea to have a child, and then realize after they've had the kid that, my gosh, we'll never have another kid. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't. It's not in us. And they went through with it. They're going to raise the kid. They love the kid. It's not what I'm saying, but there's just people that are different. But 46%. So you got that, and you got looking into if you're already feeding 2 kids, and your spouse is not there. You got all these, you know, just because they've already had 2 kids doesn't mean that all these other reasons don't come into effect.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Their support system's not there. They're trying to do it.
It doesn't mean that somebody else isn't raising their kids too.
Right. I mean, they're not working full time. I mean, it's just
grandparents do we have raising children.
I forget that statistic, but it's a whole.
That's a totally different show.
So, getting into Planned Parenthood a little bit, now that we've gotten some abortion statistics, and here's the last statistic before we get into that Planned Parenthood. When I told Pastor Josh last week when we're going to talk about abortion tonight, was the one thing that I always get hung up on is if a woman is raped, then what?
Right.
And me, I would always felt like I cannot answer that. As a dude, I cannot answer that question. I've always felt, you know what I'm saying? Right. So in order for me not to, I asked a bunch of women this week, what do you think? What do you think? And all of them said, I would never make that decision. Like, I can't sit here and tell you that this is what you should do. But what I will say is this is what women, so don't hold it on CJ, what women have said is that at the end of the day, murder is murder. And that hit me like, because you think about rape, there's a lot of different things in it. But this is coming from women that, you know what, at the end of the day, it's a bad situation. It's a terrible situation altogether. And so what you're doing is putting out another, you know what I'm saying? The woman has already gone through something that she's going to have to live with the rest of her life. And now she's in a mindset of what? And now she's going to have this holding over her head for the rest of her life too. So now she's been, you know, raped, and now she's got the death of her unborn child. And you know what I'm saying? It's unreal.
That's a tough subject to talk about.
Tough subject.
It is.
But the statistic here is that less than 1% of all abortions are because of rape. Because of rape.
A lot of that is also incest.
It's less than 1% rape and / incest, where the woman's been sexually molested. So, moving on to now that we've got our statistics, and I'm sure we'll come back to some of these, but Planned Parenthood, and we're going to touch on that just real quick tonight, because you know they're the leading people in here. But before we do that, let's go ahead and Let's go ahead and bring our pastor for the night up, Pastor Earl Breeden. Pastor Earl.
You look good, Earl.
You do look
Thanks,
good.
buddy.
You look maybe a little bit overdressed for this place tonight.
Well, I got in the closet, and that's what I had.
Oh, you are wearing khakis. Never mind.
I do have on khakis.
That was easy.
So I wanted to bring you up just because it's crickets in here tonight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's a hard
Tough
subject, and just kind of give us a break so we can breathe for a minute. But getting into Planned Parenthood, and like I said, the reason we did because they're the #1 provider in abortions in the United States. So that's why we're going on. And everybody knows the Planned Parenthood name because of the recent controversy of them. I guess I'll say it, cutting up babies and selling baby parts and aborted babies and all that's been going on in the news. So, just to read some statistics on them is that Planned Parenthood kills 5,800 innocent human beings every week. So that's 5,800 abortions every week. 1 out of every 4 abortions in the United States is committed in a Planned Parenthood facility. Planned Parenthood commits more than 300,000 abortions a year. And that's where that earlier statistic comes from, the 327,000. So when you start researching this place, it's absolutely unreal from the beginning. Like the founder of this Planned Parenthood was an absolute nut job. I mean, the lady started Planned Parenthood when she was trying to get rid of an entire race. That was her whole plan in the beginning, was to go in and abort African American children.
What is wrong
And I'm like,
with you people?
So you start there. There's your root system. And it only gets worse. You know what I'm saying? That's your founder of this whole company. I'm like, I don't even know what to get into. So they have all the stuff that's going on with the controversy of accused of harvesting, selling body parts, doing all this. They go into one of their biggest things is it's like a business, right? I mean, it is a business, I guess. They go in and they seek out what places they're going to plant these facilities. Just kind of like if you were going to open a chain of restaurants, you're looking for a certain type of demographic that you're going to make the most money from. Well, they go into the most economically challenged places and set up shop. They get these people to come into there. And once they get in, I can only imagine that they fill their heads with, this is what you... Yes. Now, we're not going to get in, because I don't even really want to talk about how and the different procedures. And there's things that, and if you want to know about it, research it. But I'm saying be ready for it, because it's absolutely some of the grossest stuff you will ever see, look at, listen, read, whatever you do. But yes, there are many occasions where they go in, they abort a baby, they bring the baby out of its mother, out of the womb, and the baby's still alive. Yes. That they use, and I'll just real quick, they'll use injections into the baby that burn it, that the baby inhales, burns up in its insides. They've had instances there. I mean, Pastor Josh, we were talking about it, he showed a picture of a lady who was actually aborted, and the abortion did not take. She lived, she was born, and her skin is just completely burnt, fried. It's just unreal. So yes, to answer your question, yes, it happens, and it happens often. So, and of course, if you know anything like that ever happens, you know that the people who survive that are dealing with health issues their entire lives. I mean, how could you not? So, looking into, this is the statistic from Planned Parenthood, is that the 327 abortion procedures, this is in 2013, 327,653 abortion procedures. If you go down the list, the adoption referrals is what we're talking about, adoption, 1,800. So they aborted 327,000, and they put in adoption referrals for 1,800. So you look at it and it's like, what are they telling these people when they come in here? You can go ahead and that's telling you what they're telling them. Statistics. So I look at a place like that with all this baggage that they're carrying around, with their founder being crazy, with this controversy of harvesting and selling these body parts, and them being #1 leader in abortion, and going all through this whole thing. And you look at a place like that and you say, wow. Like this place, they gotta go. And that's why the big thing right now is the government to defund them, because the government is giving them money.
Right.
I mean, this is 2013, 2014. The government gave the grants and services reimbursements $528 million. $528 million to this place. And there's not a lot. I don't even know how many total. I mean, there's like 80-some of these facilities in the United States, and there's 2 in Kentucky. There's one, if you had to pick, based on what we know about this, where do you think they would put them in Kentucky?
My guess is probably somewhere on the outskirts of Louisville.
Louisville's one.
And probably somewhere in the outskirts of Lexington.
Lexington. Boom. Why? Why do you say that? It's the 2 biggest cities in Kentucky. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to put one in Williamstown.
Right.
Not enough people here. They'd lose money. So that just goes to show you that's what they do. And you can pull up on their website. There's maps of there's where our locations are. Every state is like that. You look at the cities and that's where they are.
Are there only 2 in Kentucky?
There are only 2 in Kentucky. So I don't even know where to go from there. It's like, is it all this Planned Parenthood's fault? No, that's not what I'm saying. But after researching all this, you start getting into how real this is and how big this problem is. And it's something that I had no idea. And so, Pastor Earl, here's my point before I bring you, Pastor Earl, is that what are the schools teaching us? What are the schools teaching our kids? Do we even know? When I read this question, I like to flip my lid because I thought, I don't know. I have no clue. Now, they better not be teaching my kids anything because they're 6, 8 years old. They're teaching them something. I'm going to go in there tomorrow and it's going to be like a daggone whirlwind in that place. But what are our kids, what are they learning? I have no idea. I remember what sex education was when I was in school. And I was reading some things like that and I'm like, that is nothing. So I don't know if you can even, I don't even think you can even talk about this.
I have to be careful what I say, but I'll let you know how each school district in Kentucky is a little bit different. A lot of school districts in this area are going with what is called choosing the best, and that is basically, I'm a health and PE teacher. I am not allowed in our school district to teach sex ed. They have an outside organization come in to do it, and it starts in the 6th grade. Before that organization comes in, a permission slip gets sent home with all the kids, and the parents have to sign it. If that permission slip does not get signed, that child is not in that room. Period. So that's done the right way. And then there's a choosing the best for 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders. So they each have their own curriculum. Basically, choosing the best starts in 6th grade with making the correct choice, making the right choices on who you date, how you date, different things like that. And then it moves all the way up to the 8th grade where it gets more in depth with contraceptive talk and different things. But
Did you say the 6th grade?
it starts in 6th grade. And
That's our first problem.
Well,
I-
8th graders who are pregnant.
like I said, I can't. I don't want to share all my opinions about it.
No, you can. I get it. I want to know.
Because I've sat in. I know. I'm pretty sure Pastor Cummins had Pastor Cummins. He's a substitute.
Same guy.
Yeah, same guy. Pastor Josh has sat in on some of them as well, and it is an abstinence program. So they are teaching abstinence. It's a good point.
Well, what scared me was
How it's taught. Again,
right.
I can't.
Well,
Like I know.
what scared me was I started looking at the services that Planned Parenthood does, and that's one thing they do. They have curriculum. They send people into the schools, and I'm like, whoa. This is the last people I want to, because you start looking at here's what they're discussing. Abstinence, here's what their quotes and stuff are on there. Abstinence, it doesn't work. It never worked. We're getting better results. We've dropped abortion rates by doing this, and this, and this, and this, and this. Teaching these kids how to do this, how to do that. I mean, they're talking about things from how to do this to masturbation. Teaching masturbation. And I'm like, what? Why? Why do you need to teach masturbation to a 6th grade kid? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't even make any sense. So that's when it scared me like completely, because I said, I don't know. And granted, it's because now I feel a lot better, thank you. I don't really have to worry about that for a few more years. But as a parent, we've got the right to know what is going on in our schools. We do have the right, and we need to know what's going on. We should know what's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
We should know everything that's being taught. And I think we lose sight of that because we get into that busyness like we're talking about the life.
Right.
But what made me think of this is you think about a young woman who goes into one of these Planned Parenthood places and she talks to a counselor and she takes everything that counselor says to heart and to gold. And you know what I'm saying? It's gospel, basically. Because we look at these people who are counselors, especially that young. I remember when we look at them, we say, this is their job, right? They know all counselors. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know from experience that, you know what counselors are? There's some good ones, there's some bad ones. It's a job. Have you never had a bad day at your job? Have you never messed up at your job? Yeah, you do. Why? Because you're a human being. You're going to have bad days. You're going to say bad things. And some counselors are just absolutely terrible at what they do and shouldn't never be a counselor. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I was a senior in high school. I had a counselor tell me, where are you going to college? I said, I'm not going to go to college. And she said, oh, so you're going to be a loser then. And I was like, what? Like, you don't talk to me like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was what she said. And I'm like, okay.
I don't think you're a loser.
Well, I don't think so either. I make more money than that lady does now anyway, so who's a loser now? I didn't even have no college debt. You know what I'm saying? Smoking on that pipe. But what my whole point
that's
is that...
awesome, CJ. You're so awesome, man. I want to be like you, really.
My whole point is that these are human beings. If you're going to seek counsel, it needs to be godly counsel, first of all. But it's hard to do that if you're not in that to begin with. So I'll move on. I have no idea what time we are, but I know we're probably losing track here. So getting into a little bit of scripture to close this thing out. Pastor Earl, me and you was talking about this afternoon, and researching it today and in the last week. David Platt is a preacher, well known. He's wrote a lot of books, very good, very biblical based, and he's got a video in a subject that he does on abortion. And so he starts off with this. When you get into abortion, the reason that people think abortion is okay the reason we've legalized it is because we don't consider the baby to be a person. We consider it to be, you know, what's the word you use? A fetus, or something that's like a mass of something. It's not a human being.
Desensitizes.
Yeah, it does. And so, and what he said was, and couldn't have said it any better. It says the key question that we all must answer, and the question that determines how we view abortion, is this: what is contained in the womb? Is it a person, or is it merely an embryo, a fetus, etc., etc.? Because saying this, every other question in the abortion controversy doesn't matter if we say it's a human being. Because that's murder. You can't legally kill someone if it's a human being. The whole thing goes away. Now, what they tell us is that, like we said, it's not living. It's got potential to live, but it's not living. And he goes on. There's a guy who wrote a book about this, and this is what David Platt uses: that if the unborn is a human person, then no justification for abortion is adequate. He's saying if we're saying that the baby in there at any stage in its life is a human being, then you cannot justify abortion being legal. We can't justify ever having one. Because it's against law. And this is the example that he gives. The guy Kokel wrote. This is a true little story here. He's talking about Gregory Kokel is the guy who wrote this book, and in it he's talking about a daughter of a family friend. And it says, Rachel is 2 months old, but she is still 6 weeks away from being a full-term baby. She was born prematurely at 24 weeks, in the middle of her mother's second trimester. On the day of her birth, Rachel weighed 1 pound, 9 ounces, but dropped to just under a pound soon after. She was so small she could rest in the palm of her daddy's hand. She was a tiny, living, human person. Heroic measures were taken to save this child's life. Why? Because we have an obligation to protect, nurture, and care for other humans who would die without our help, especially little children. Rachel was a vulnerable and valuable human being. But get this, if a doctor came into the hospital room and instead of caring for Rachel, took the life of this little girl as she lay quietly nursing at her mother's breast, it would be homicide. However, if this same little girl, the very same Rachel, was inches away, resting inside her mother's womb, she could be legally killed by abortion. And that's the truth. You think of it that way. This little girl survived 24 weeks. She's living, breathing. She's outside, living. What is the difference between that and if she's inside her mother's womb? There's the same person. And I look at it and say, the fact that this law is this way is absolutely ludicrous. Because of that, if nothing else, because of that right there. So to get to the question of what does Scripture say about, we need to find out what Scripture says. What does God think about human being? Is it the person inside the womb? Is it a person, or is it just a matter? You know? And so I looked at Psalms 139:13. And it says, "For you formed my inward parts, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, my soul knows it very well." So that first line, for you formed my inward parts, you knitted me together in my mother's womb. Jeremiah 1:5, I believe, says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. So before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. He's already giving you, he already knows you. And if you read, you keep going on in the scripture, you knit me, you have been my God since I was first formed from my mother's womb. You are my God. That's Psalms 22. Truly, children are a gift from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Psalms 127. God, from my mother's womb, had set me apart and called me through His grace. That's Paul to Galatians in Galatians 1:15. So you start looking and you search all these scriptures. It's real simple what God thinks. He made us in whose image? His own image. Put him in the womb. And it's very simple to see where God stands on whether the person is a person in the womb or not. I mean, what do you think, Pastor Earl? If you read those scriptures, you think God is saying that He's saying, I knew you. Does that mean you're a person?
Well, I think, if you look at, there's three different areas that I can look at as you're talking. Without question, we know that He knew us before we was in the womb, like you said. That's without question. We also know that there's several instances, in the Bible where, Jesus Himself was in the womb, and when Mary went and visited, we know that when John the Baptist was in the womb, that there was a Holy Spirit filling and they were jumping. So we know that there was action going on. We know that God knows exactly what's going on in the womb. And I look at it, from a biblical standpoint, we know that there's life in the womb. From a biblical standpoint, without question, I don't even think it's even really, there is even a suggestion that there's not. But I still think that leaves a problem because, what David Platt did is David Platt went right to the root of the issue. When I do counseling with somebody, and it doesn't matter what the counseling's for, it could be for marriage issues or whatever I'm counseling somebody. People come in and they need counseling, but a lot of times I have to get to the root of the issue. And the root of the issue is usually not even why they even came to see me. Why they came to see me could be 20 different reasons why they don't like each other, or 20 different reasons why they think that this is the problem. And so I have to dig through all that stuff to get down to exactly what David Platt did and try to find the root of the issue. And outside of judging people and condemning people and finding fault in people and finding fault in Planned Parenthood and standing with signs and all the things that I'm against, I look at it and I say, what is the real root of the issue? And the real root of the issue is exactly what David Platt linked into and said that the only real question is it considered a person? Is there an identity there? Because if there's an identity there, it is murder. And then I look at it and I think, the third thing I would say, is, the inches away, whether the baby's out and the baby's exposed. One thing I've learned about sin is we hide our sin. If you can hide a sin, nobody knows you did it. If you can hide it, and when you see a baby is hidden. And it's inside and there's a covering. And so what is done is, even if it's a sin, it's done in secret. And if you pull that baby out and you murder that baby while it's sitting there moving, all of a sudden it looks like it is. And it's exposed and it's not covered anymore and it's not secret anymore. And all of a sudden there's not this covering. And that's what we've done kind of with abortion. We as we've masked our eyes and we've covered it, and because it's in a stomach and not out in the open, all of a sudden it is considered okay. But the real main issue is, here's the thing. If you're not a Christian, if you don't have a standard, then there really is no standard to go by. You know, we talk about what they teach in school. I can remember 20 years ago, and I graduated back in 1991, when I was in the 9th grade, they were bringing condoms in to school, and physically a woman would stand up there, and she would pull out the condom, and she would physically show every boy in the entire room 20 years ago how to put a condom on. And, you know, I can remember this, and I'm thinking, you know, this is kind of where it's at. And then as a school bus driver for you know, so many years, you know, to see 5 and 6 and 7 kids out of the middle school pregnant, and because what it is that the root of the problem there is that the root of the problem with abortion is, let's get to the root, is it life? The root of the problem to sin is we don't have a standard that we follow. And no matter how many people say that they're Christian, the truth is that how many people are truly living a standard to say, you know, I can't do that outside. You know, and here's the thing, as I always say, you know, you wouldn't need, you know, what's it called, Planned Parenthood. You wouldn't need that facility if you're not in trouble. If there was a standard, you know, I don't need Shriners Hospital if I never get burned. You know, I don't need to do this or do that. I don't have to, you know, go do something that I'm not involved in. I always think, you know, you don't really have to worry about police arresting you as long as you follow the law. You know what I mean? As long as you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. I don't think Todd Cummins is going to come in here and arrest any of us. You know, I've never had an issue with law enforcement. I've never had to be jailed. I don't have to go against that system, because here's the deal, is that, you know, I'm following the law that's created. You know, and I know we had an argument 2 or 3 weeks ago. Maybe there was a day where me and Josh will both be in jail for a reason. But, I mean, the truth is that, you know, as long as it doesn't go against God, you know, I don't think, you know, you don't need Planned Parenthood. You don't need those facilities if you're following a standard. If you follow the standard, it'll guide you. But the problem is we don't follow a standard. But really, it doesn't really matter what you do. When I was a non-Christian, you know, I used to tell my sister all the time, I'm not saved. I can get drunk, I can rip, I can go to the bars, I can do this, I can, you know, watch sexual stuff all the time. It doesn't matter, because sin, I'm living in sin. So, but it's covered, and I think that's an issue.
That's sure. That's good stuff, man. You just smashed that thing out of the park. So, and to kind of wrap this whole thing up, last question. With what you just said, and you know what we know, and basically, like I said, tonight was about bringing to light some of the truth, so that, you know, we can see that there is a cause, there is a problem, there's reason to be concerned, there's reason to go back and check about what our kids are learning. There's reasons to stay just on your children. There's reasons to, you know, besides the fact of just, you know, showing them Christ every day. So we know all this problem's out there. We know what's going on. So my last question was, knowing that this is going on, what can the church do? Like, what can the church do to help with the situation, if anything? What is it that we can do? Because I think that's where people find themselves is, okay, we know there's a problem. What do we do about it?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing I think, you know, is me and you were talking earlier, and the first thing that the church can do is seriously get in prayer. Because if we're not praying for our nation, if we're not praying, seriously, I'm not talking about these little, hey, I'll pray for you, and yeah, that's great. I'm talking about being in serious prayer and serious relationship with a Father in heaven who desperately cares about the church and about us. So we need to be in prayer. The second thing we need to do is not be, you know, naive to what our teenagers are going through today. Our teenagers are subjected to every type of sexual form. Every one of our kids got iPhones. All of them, we're telling them, tweet this and tweet that, and every single, I mean, I just took my little mentee out today, and, you know, and today he's 10 years old, and he's got a little phone there that he's connected right to the internet on, and I'm sitting here looking at that, and I'm thinking at 10 years old, he's now subjected to what the world has to offer through every type of sin that there is. You know, and so I think it's through knowledge and it's through teaching our children, but I also think, you know what I mean, we need to teach our kids, you know, right now. I mean, my daughter is 17, getting ready to turn 18, and, you know, I am instilling in my child You know, no sex before marriage. You know, and I think that there's people in this church that are adults that are living out that type of lifestyle, or who have lived out that type of lifestyle. And we need to be lifting up the adults that are holding the standard to what we want our kids to be, and be pointing them out and letting those people counsel. Because, you know, if you're 24 years old and you get married and you were a virgin when you got married, we need to be pointing those out, though, because it wasn't easy to get to that spot or get to that point in the race. Point them out. Let them counsel our youth. Let them be the ones that are holding the standards. Because here's the deal. I'll tell you honestly the truth, is I failed miserably when I was young. I never had anybody in my life saying, wait. I never had anybody in my life saying, don't move in with your girlfriend. And so I did all the things that nobody set a standard for me. And I think that in the church, for the church, what do we do for our youth is we set a standard and point to examples in the ministry, you know, for them to look at. And if they don't have anybody to look at, that's a problem. Big problem.
He's on it, man.
You're on fire.
You have to talk about it. You have to do exactly what we're doing right now. You have to talk about subjects. I asked this question to my kids the other day in class. I was doing a tobacco, alcohol, and drugs unit. And I said, raise your hand. This is 8th graders. Well, it was a mix between 7th and 8th graders. I said, raise your hand if your parents or your guardian, whoever you live with, has set you down and had a serious conversation with you about alcohol and drugs. I had a class of 32 kids. 7 kids raised their hand. 7 kids out of 32. Their parent or guardian set them down and talked to them about alcohol and drugs.
That's probably because something horrific happened with those 7 kids
and it's like,
or 7 parents.
It's like, you know, we want to know why all this stuff is happening. It's because we are a little afraid to talk about it, you know, because it is a touchy subject, and we have to be willing to do exactly what you said and set standards to find that truth.
But I think another thing is just with the whole situation, the interview with the lady, and what it's crying out for is support. And I think as families, as parents, as the church, we've got to be there to support these people. You know, they're going through. We've got to be there to support our youth. We've got to be there to support anyone who's going through these bad times. Let them know that they're not alone. You know what I'm saying? And I think, how do we get that place? How do we get people to feel comfortable enough to come and seek us out? We've got to talk about it. You've got to talk. You got to do what we're doing tonight. Was it as fun as like what we did last week tonight? No, it's not. But if we're not talking about it, then it's just going to be one of those, hey, it's not happening because I'm not talking about it, I don't see it. I'm just going to let it go on. And it's easier for us to get away with talking about this than it is to have this conversation on a Sunday morning, right? And it's good. We can do whatever we want. But, Pastor Earl, I appreciate you coming up tonight, man.
Yo, Earl! What? Hey, you're fired! You butt!
Great job, Pastor Earl.
Thanks, Earl.
He's on point tonight.
He was very much on point.
As we wrap this thing up, I want you to know a couple things. One is that there's a show on TV called The View. And they have a lady on there named Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
She's an absolute moron. I want you to know that. And that's with all due respect that I say that. She's on there the other day and she's talking about, they're talking about abortion, go figure. And she says, well, I'm going to tell you right now, abortion, it says there's nothing in the Bible that says anything about abortion. You can look it up. Look up the 10 Commandments. There's only 10 Commandments.
I'm listening to you. You're
And
crazy.
I'm thinking, what is one of the 10 Commandments?
Yeah.
Because you don't kill.
Right.
That was easy.
She's like, and I call her a moron because she just like talks like her answers, because you're a talk show host. And you were in a nun's outfit you son, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
who is this woman? And all of a sudden she's like everything I say is, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That show is absolutely ridiculous anyways. Don't, I can't do it. Because the recipe stays the same. You know, they keep going through Christian, young, petite Christian women. They just go through them like,
Yeah.
because they go in there and just hammer them on the other co-host. Anyways, off that is what it is. So, appreciate you guys coming tonight. I know, like I said, it wasn't as fun, but I hope we opened some eyes. I hope we, it definitely give you something to pray about. Definitely give you something to think about. So, going next week, I don't know what we're going to get into next week. I'm going to have to take time to kind of go through this whole thing.
I'm ready.
Whatever we do, it's going to be fun. It's going to be good. So,
Whoopi, look up Exodus 21 verses 20 through 25. Read that.
there you go. Whoopi Goldberg. Follow us. So, thanks you guys for coming out tonight. Thanks for following us on Periscope. See you back here next week. Same time, same place. Love you guys.